Hello, TMG here. 4 years ago, I bought Metroid Prime 3 Corruption from GameStop. I've been a Metroid fan since I was a kid, and I thought it would be worth giving the Prime games a shot. Well, if you know me, I have quite a few games I need to play through. So, a few months ago, I finally got around to playing Metroid Prime 3 for the first time. And I loved it! And then I bought Metroid Prime Trilogy for Wii, and you know what? I love the first two games as well. I've come to the conclusion that the Prime games are not just some of the greatest Metroid games of all time, but some of the best games ever made in general. I love the Prime games for a few reasons. Each game is incredibly original, being a game that stands on its own in terms of story, lore, and gameplay. Each game is incredibly unique, not being afraid to change established tropes or gameplay loops. And each game has a unique perspective, meaning what you take away from each game is something different, almost like different pieces of art. But when you bring these games together, they create something much more impressive than any of these games stand alone: the Metroid Prime Trilogy. Now before we continue, I just want to say there won't be any significant spoilers in this video, and all the footage will be sourced from the beginning of each game, so there won't be any spoilers there either. Now let's dive into Metroid Prime 1. Something Metroid Prime does right from the beginning is start Samus off with all her power-ups. I really like this for a few reasons. First of all, it's a fun little teaser for later in the game when you recover all of these power-ups, but it also acts as a form of justification for storytelling. In some of the 2D Metroid games, Samus starts off with none of her power-ups, despite having them in the game that took place immediately before. By having Samus start at full power, it allows Metroid Prime to justify why Samus has lost her power-ups. This immediately shows what makes the Prime games different from the 2D Metroid titles. They have an incredibly close attention to detail, probably more so than any other video game. Whether it's lore, the landscape, enemy design, or animation, these games are full of close attention to detail, which makes Metroid Prime feel incredibly polished and well developed. Metroid Prime 1 still follows the gameplay loop that the previous 2D Metroid games established. Find a dead end, look for power-ups, find a power-up, and overcome dead ends with said power-up. While at the same time, Metroid Prime has a much stronger focus on combat than the 2D games. Enemies have complex patterns. Samus can dodge enemy attacks, but enemies can also dodge your attacks. Some enemies require to use specific weapons to defeat them, or can only be taken out from behind. This really sets Metroid Prime apart from the 2D titles. In the 2D games, a lot of the fun came from the exploration, and while exploration is still a focus of the Prime games, now a lot of the fun comes from learning and mastering enemy patterns. Metroid Prime also has a much darker and more mature world than the 2D titles. We learn a lot about space pirate culture, how cruel they are, how they literally torture each other for science, and how their culture of dominance has both benefited and weakened them. We learn a lot about the Chozo of Talon 4, their battles, their sore losses, and eventually their extinction. The 2D Metroid game's main focus was exploring an alien planet, but Metroid Prime takes things a bit further. It wants you to stop and learn about this world you're exploring. Learn about how it became what it is. Retro Studios doesn't shy away from making lore creepy or somewhat disturbing. Metroid Prime isn't a horror game by any means, not even close, but it definitely feels like it's trying to appeal to a slightly older audience than the 2D games. So overall, the original Metroid Prime is a masterpiece, and a perfect start for this trilogy. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes starts a lot like the first game. Samus starts at full power. These abilities are then stolen, and Samus must recover them back. Everything I loved about the first game is still here. The close attention to detail, the lore, the gameplay, but Metroid Prime 2 feels quite a bit different from the first game. And I think this is because Retro Studios was now confident in their abilities to make a Metroid game. What am I talking about? Let me explain. The first Metroid Prime game was incredibly creative and original, but at the same time it didn't want to stray too far away from what made people love the 2D games. Talon 4 was an ancient planet inhabited by the Chozo. A lot of the same Chozo weapons and suits that appeared in the 2D games also appeared in Metroid Prime 1. Now there's nothing wrong with this, I think this was the right choice by the developers. But after Metroid Prime's success, Retro Studios became a lot more confident in their ability to make an original Metroid game. The setting of Metroid Prime 2 is Aether. The main inhabitants of Aether are the Luminoth, not the Chozo. Almost every weapon and suit is completely new and unique to this game. The world of Aether itself feels incredibly unique because of this. Luminoth culture and architecture is very different from the Chozo. This is something I love about Metroid Prime 2. Almost every Metroid game focuses on Chozo history and technology. Prime 2 feels like a necessary change for the franchise, giving us a completely new culture to learn about and even compare to the Chozo. Metroid Prime 2 is also a darker game than the first game. In terms of lore, setting, and enemies, the game is overall darker. I mean, one of the first enemies you encounter in the game is a possessed, undead Federation officer. And then, just a bit later, you watch a video recording of the Federation troops dying in battle against the dark forces of Aether. This game sees Samus traveling to an alternate, twisted, and dark version of Aether called Dark Aether. The inhabitants of Dark Aether are extremely hostile and are literally dark beings of hatred. The main gameplay loop from the first game remains, with a few slight changes. The different parts of Aether are all a bit more interconnected than in Prime 1, making it easier and faster to travel across the world. Prime 2 also tries to restrict new items and exploration to one area at a time, making it easier to find the way forward. These changes are subtle, but are good quality of life changes for the series. In the end, Metroid Prime 2 echoes as a perfect sequel to the first game, and a masterpiece of a game in its own right. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption is similar to its predecessors. Samus starts the game with all of her abilities. The close attention to detail, the lore, and the gameplay are all still here. But like Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3 is an incredibly unique and different feeling game. Instead of taking place on one planet like Prime 1 and 2, Prime 3 sees Samus traveling between many different planets. This may not seem significant at first, but it introduces a lot of quality of life improvements. Let's say you missed an upgrade or something on another planet. Samus can simply hop in her gunship and fly to that specific part of the planet and quickly find that power-up. Samus's gunship is not just a way to fly between planets, but it makes backtracking a lot easier, allowing you to skip sections by simply flying over them. It feels like a proper evolution of Metroid Prime 2's more interconnected world. I think this was necessary considering just how big the scale of Metroid Prime 3 is. Like Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3 sees us learning about new cultures, while also learning more about the Chozo and their effects on other cultures. This gives Metroid Prime 3 a very unique feel. Seeing how the Chozo have affected and even created many of the societies and cultures of other planets is fascinating, and gives us a new perspective on who the Chozo are. Metroid Prime 3 also further develops the combat seen in the previous two games. Shortly after the introduction sequence, Samus receives a new suit created by the Galactic Federation. This suit allows Samus to use Phazon as a weapon, but not without sacrifice. There is a new challenge of balance added to the combat. Whenever you use your incredibly strong Phazon weaponry, you have to sacrifice an energy tank. As I said, this makes the combat a bit more difficult, but once you master the mechanic, it is incredibly satisfying and adds another layer of depth to the combat. Metroid Prime 3 also sees us learning about who the Galactic Federation is. Throughout the game, you are in constant contact with the Federation, and even do a few missions fighting alongside them. This is something I love, seeing how the Galactic Federation has been sending Samus on missions since the beginning of the series. And now we get to see who they are and what they do. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption is a masterpiece, doing everything I would want a sequel to the first two games to do, while still standing apart as a unique title in the franchise. hope you all enjoyed this video. I know everyone seems to have their favorite Metroid Prime game, but I really can't say I do. Every game in this trilogy is great, and together even better. I really can't in good conscience say that one game in this trilogy is better than another. They feel like necessary parts, and once you take one of them away, the whole thing starts to fall apart. I hope I've inspired you to go get your Wii or GameCube out and play some Metroid Prime games. As we look toward the future with Metroid Prime 4 coming closely on the horizon, we can only hope that it will be as good as these games. It really does have a lot to live up to.
Pew, 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 pew. Take that, space pirates. Pew, pew, pew.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you guys there. Well, if you enjoyed this video, I'd go check out this, or maybe it's there. It's somewhere on the screen. There's probably another video here that you might like. I put a lot of effort in these videos, even though, you know, I'm not like the greatest YouTuber, I'm not the greatest video editor or anything, but I try, and it's for you guys. My, like, 3 reoccurring viewers. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Now, I gotta go beat up some space pirates, you know? Pew pew pew, pew pew pew. I need the morph ball too, actually.